But welcome. This is very important session, and I'm thankful to PTA and the leadership of PTA for organizing such type of conference in Pakistan. I have been given the responsibility to go with this growth of ICT industry, and particularly with reference to Pakistan, and also we have some foreigner speakers who will also share with us what is happening in the rest of the world. May I request our panelists to join us at the stage. First, Ms. Helani Galpaya, Mr. Asim Shahryar, Managing Director from Pakistan Software Export Board, Mr. Parvaiz Iftikhar from International ICT Consultant, and then Mr. Mudassar Hussain, if he's there. Okay, he will join us later on. Pakistan is also getting the fruit of whatever happening in ICT. That is obvious. If you see the industry growth in Pakistan, it's huge. As far as the facilities available, as far as the mobile user in Pakistan, more than 100 million, as far as the internet user, and so on. But so far, we are only users. I think we need to do something extra to not only to be user, also producer of something in Pakistan. But let's see. I don't want to start my own ideas, but I will request our speakers, honorable speakers of the panelists, that they should give us their thoughts. First speaker will be Ms. Helani Galpaya, if I'm rightly pronouncing your name. Okay, let me share, where is the bio of, they need to put on. Ms. Galpaya is the CEO of the LIRNEasia, a pro-market think tank working across the emerging Asian Pacific on ICT policy and regulatory issues. She assumed the CEO role in January 2013, I believe. Prior to this, she was basically in Myanmar since 2013. She has a master's degree in technology and policy from Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Cambridge, USA, and BA in computer science from Mount Holyoke College, Massachusetts, USA. I request Ms. Galpaya to come on stage. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. So the moderator was talking about, we have users, what we don't have is enough production. Users matter in production because the obvious, if you're talking about the ICT industry, one of the obvious markets is the local market. And in the local market, we have a problem in most of South Asia because there isn't a large amount of usage. Our people are using voice and SMS across South Asia and Southeast Asia, but not using the internet, right? And this is despite a lot of our countries passing the affordability barriers. So the Global Commission, the UN Broadband Commission has set this 5% target, 5% of monthly income. Less than that is what it should cost to consume communication services. Many of our countries meet that. You can see, including Pakistan, India, Maldives, Indonesia, and so on. And yet, we have around 30% or less of our users using the internet. So retail affordability is not the only thing that we need to focus on. We absolutely do need to focus on this, and this has been discussed in great detail in the first panel, for example, in the opening about infrastructure and so on. But phones matter, what type of screen you're using when you access the internet, the quality that you get when you get online, the relevance of the information and the relevance of getting online to people. This matters. So price, we discussed this yesterday. International backhaul is expensive. This is the East Asian countries. You can see at the right-hand side. Roughly 6 times or more expensive than, for example, transatlantic IP transit. And South Asia is even more expensive. The thing is, when you have this, and because we have such high retail competition, you can't pass on the additional costs. So what you get is under-provisioning. They buy less than required. And you see this directly in the quality of service experienced by users. When you download things or access content that's in your local ISP, usually hosted in the country, like on the left-hand side of this graph, the prices are, let's say, decent. And then there's a degradation when you look at the right-hand side, that's accessing international content. You see this in mobile broadband as well. So in both of these, PTCL data is the red line. We try and measure this twice a year, multiple cities, multiple countries, etc., 6 times a day, and so on and so forth, right? So degradation in quality is serious, and a lot of our users are accessing international content. So the quality of experience is problematic. This is one of the barriers. But we do a lot of work in Myanmar, and it is possible to get a lot of things right. So their market, South Asia has, 25-30% smartphone penetration. In Myanmar, 63% of the phones are smartphones. And they obviously have cheaper prices, not as cheap as Pakistan and India. But what you get by being the newcomer is this leapfrogging effect, right? Over 50% of the SIMs are online and daily average usage. So this is one of the highest internet access countries. So we can get there, and the local market is important because of the relevance question. See, even in Myanmar, in this year, we had a nationally representative sample survey, and we asked them, why do you not own a phone? And we focused on the phone because that is how people are going to consume the internet in this part of the world. I cannot afford it was 40% of the population. The second most important is I have no use for it, or I don't need one. So this is about relevance. So price is important, but why should I get a phone and why should I get online? This is a real issue. And why are people getting online? We'd like to think people are checking market prices and finding jobs online and doing all these things that improve their lives, but what most people do is they are on social media. YouTube, Facebook, and WhatsApp, less social media, more communication, they dominate the bandwidth for most users. And if you look at the numbers, there are sometimes reported more Facebook users in some countries than internet users, right? So in this context, this phenomena of zero rating, the idea that some content doesn't count towards your data cap has emerged as really important and controversial. It's offered by Facebook and many other operators who put some things inside a walled garden, and it's free or very cheap, much cheaper than usual, and people access it. Usually it's Facebook and social media, but as a strategy for getting users online, I think governments and other people really need to think about zero-rated government services. If you want people to use it and get used to using it, it should be inside the free walled garden, including Facebook Zero, if that's what most people use. Because once they get a taste for getting online and consuming something, there's this reasonable conversion factor. So according to Facebook's numbers, after 30 days of using the free content, 50% of the users within 30 days become paying users of a full internet package. That's the kind of conversion we need, right? So to do this, we need applications, good applications that are of interest to people inside these platforms, and then get them to start paying. So let's talk, how do we get apps? So one of the mistakes that we see in, well, not here, but certainly in some of the other countries in South Asia we try to work in, is that many governments think they can create apps and they can pick the winners, and so they're going to invest in creating apps. That's not how the app development market works, right? 1,000 flowers bloom and one will be alive after a year. You need to let the creativity of the hackers, the techies, the app developers develop large numbers of apps. It's a hit-driven economy, right? It might be the interface, it might be the data in it, some apps will survive. So you just need to create this ecosystem and create a vibrant marketplace for app developers in the country. So quite a while ago, Sri Lanka got into this game. At that time, the second largest operator, Etisalat, and a company called Senid were running training camps, free, how to write an Android app. They turned out to be standing room only, thousands of people wanting to get into these things. 6, 7 years ago they started, and they're continuing. After teaching them, the Senate and Etisalat, they also gave a test environment where these people who finished an app could test it in a near runtime-like environment to see the performance once it actually got on an operator's network. It wasn't an exclusive deal. The app developer was afterwards free to go and put it on any other telco's walled garden or on their platform. If they did it with this particular company, they gave 70% of the revenue share to the developer. Again, another really, really key thing to stimulate local developers to come into that market. Not only that, usually it takes about 45 days after the end of the month in Sri Lanka, it used to, for the app developer to get any revenue from this app, if this was a revenue-generating app. This is a long time for a single guy, who's done an app maybe as a part-time job. He wants revenue. So the billing was fast-tracked. So within 10 days after the month closes, they get the revenue from the app, right? So now obviously many other operators are doing this. And what this creates is a vibrant app economy which provides employment, which is really about growth of the ICT industry for these small providers and small creators of content. This is happening in many other countries. Sri Lanka is by no means the exception. In Myanmar, it's literally about a space where people can come to and have access to broadband, have other people, and they have ideas and space and computers, and they work on these things. So I've come across Pure Push in Pakistan, which seems to be privately funded, so I'm sure there are others, but the app economy is one way we can get local content and develop the ICT market that caters for the local suppliers. But apps don't just come about, right? Other than social media, where the users of the platform create the apps, you need data for these apps, right? One of the most difficult things in creating what we call useful apps is getting real-world data in digitized form. So, and a lot of this data is in the hands of government, right? Bus schedules, health information, agriculture, verifiable weather information about when the lights are going to go out, stuff like that, that really makes a difference to people's lives. Private sector doesn't have it. It's usually on pieces of paper, printed in newspapers. So governments need to digitize and datafy this. And you can then release it in ways that, let's say, preserve people's privacy, like Singapore putting out its electricity consumption details, so that hackers can come and develop different types of apps which do behavioral modification, help them reduce their electricity bills and so on. In Myanmar, two of the most useful apps that came about was simply taking the census, because remember this was a country that was closed up for 25 years, and cleaning that data, putting it on a mobile phone app in a hackathon that was run over a weekend. And this was all private sector doing it, taking the government data. The voting records of MPs, again, a country that hasn't had elections for ages, it was online, but nobody's getting online on a browser in Myanmar. You need a mobile phone app. That's how people get online. So they just put the voting records of parliamentarians online. These types of things happen if the data is already available. So the role for government is to put the data out. Governments are not the only people who have the data. We think one of the most useful sets of data available is in the hands of the telecom operators. The digital trace that we all leave when we consume mobile telephony services. So the call detail records or visitor location registry details, the reload data, and so on. This is important because this is representative of even poor people, right? So rich people's data may be in bank account, transaction information, credit cards, but poor people don't have this. So the CDRs, for example, is what we work with in Sri Lanka, historical anonymized CDRs from multiple operators. This is really a big source of data analytics, and this is again a competency that can be nurtured in a country that has good human resources. Technical capabilities, econometric and statistical capabilities are the type of skills that we need. Put them together. So you can obviously use this unanonymized, and telecom companies do this already, right? You get very targeted marketing material and offers. But as an industry, it's worthwhile thinking about anonymized aggregate behavior of users, both for public policy and for commercial purposes. So we get 7 trillion records every week from the telecom operators in Sri Lanka, and we do this for infrastructure planning and transport mapping and urban development purposes in Sri Lanka to advise policymakers. This is an example of how this data base station load is used to identify the changing nature of a city. So highly commercial areas to highly residential to mixed areas. And so this is the Western Province in Sri Lanka. The capital is where you see a lot of red. And the black is the administrative boundaries, and you can see how the business district, the commercial areas are expanding. So this is not news in itself, but the difference is, see what the middle plan is. That is the plan the Urban Development Authority has for the year 2020. They think this yellow area is going to be the primary residential area in one of the in the Colombo district. But in fact, the 2013 reality shows that it's already a commercial area, right? So you cannot make decisions about planning based on a survey that was done 10 years ago by the government. You need a lot more regular, real-time, close to real-time data. And this is what this type of big data gives. It tells you the reality on the ground. What type of demographic changes are you having? We use it for transport planning. On the right-hand side is the Colombo master plan, the transport hubs in dark areas. The same is picked up with just 1 week of call detail records on the left when we do our analysis, right? So the left-hand side is cheaper once you set up the equipment going and can be real-time, right? So government can use this, it's obvious. It's useful for private transport providers to identify where are the big congregations of human beings. And this is the kind of thing that software companies can easily get into. Data analytics, setting up the infrastructure is not that expensive. We run Hadoop. I mean, we are a very small think tank, and we have the infrastructure in the office. Mobility is one. We also look at economic activity, right? Based on sort of high-end, low-wage, where do rich people live and poor people live. And the most common form of looking at where rich and poor live is Google Night Lights, which is the stuff that you can get online, where the night lights show economic activity and a lot of GDP modeling is done. What we're showing on the left-hand side is from the call detail records, that income is very closely related to what you see on Google Night Lights. Why is this useful? So obviously for governments to identify where poor people live, you can target services. But much more relevant as a software industry, it identifies where rich people live as well, at a very granular level, right? Much more than census enumeration surveys do. And that is useful information to advertising companies, to pretty much everybody, right? So this is an analytics business, which can be a big part of the ICT industry, which doesn't get enough attention at the moment, but it is predicted to be one of the huge growth areas. Data scientists are supposed to be in extremely short supply in the future, right? I've talked about extending credit yesterday. I'm asking a question, but extending credit to people is one of the big problems because people don't have assets. We do asset-based lending in South Asia most of the time. You need to have a house or some building to give us collateral. But because we don't have strong credit bureaus and systems. Mobile reload data can be used as a proxy measure of creditworthiness. So again, inclusion and another part of the industry that can be created. So to get real value, you can't just have one telecom operator analyzing their data. That's great. They can do a lot of marketing stuff for them. The real value comes when you have all the operator data in one place, because then you have representative knowledge about the whole population, right? So this is a bit difficult to coordinate. They don't like to share a lot of the data. So you do need to either create independent third parties, the telecom regulator has to come in, you need to nurture the software companies that do this, and it is possible. I mean, we have sort of globally recognized firms, for example, in big data middleware called WSO2, all open source. If you start down, you haven't missed the boat in Pakistan. Everybody's getting onto this, but everybody's still early. My last point is quite different, actually, about boosting the ICT sector, because Pakistan is doing a lot of e-government. I think there's a panel here. I know there's investment into various e-government systems. This can be part of the strategy for developing the local ICT sector. So when government departments are buying services, and they buy a lot of IT systems, procurement is a game of risk management, right? There's an agency problem because the seller of the services always know a lot more about their capabilities than the government department does. So procurement all over the world, World Bank, Government of Pakistan, Sri Lanka, India, what they do is, in a tender, they will say, I will select companies who can prove they've done a similar system. So let's say a pension system. Have you done an e-pension system before or something like that? Have you done a system that's of $2 million of value? Because that's the expected size of my current procurement. And can you give me a performance guarantee, usually to almost the size of the $2 million, right? So these are significant barriers for a small software company that hasn't played this game before, that's based in Pakistan. So what you get is few local companies participating, the big global players coming and bidding for contracts. And often, if the money is coming from World Bank, it actually will say that you have to have internationally competitive procurement. And that's fine, because you do want value for money. But local companies have advantages, like the ability to cater to local language needs, right? Whether it's Unicode, Urdu fonts, or tech support in local language. Local presence, to be able to go regionally to every, let's say, district and install things and do post-implementation support. If you're buying licenses from international or global products or systems and just integrating it, then a local firm has the same advantages as an international firm. There's no big advantage if it's just a system integration job. The local firm has an advantage. Or if you're doing a really small bespoke system, again, the international products that are available, let's say for welfare or healthcare management or pensions, have a lot of functionality. So instead of buying all of that, you might be able to get it in the local market for cheaper. So, but this doesn't necessarily just happen, right? And this has to be an explicitly recognized and stated policy of the government, working with who's handling procurement. They need to allocate marks in tenders. They need to train the local ICT sector. In Sri Lanka, in the initial rounds of bidding for World Bank-funded e-government projects, all the tenders of the local parties were being rejected because they didn't know how to fill these 100-page forms. It's a capacity building issue. You need to help local software companies find each other so they can put joint ventures as bids. You need to be able to accept past experience in creative ways, like people who do collaborative app development on GitHub should be able to use that as previous reference, even though they haven't, let's say, done an e-pension system. Sri Lanka is actually a best-in-case in doing this. We examined this for UNCTAD, and in the 13 bids that we looked at, 12 had local firms, 4 won outright. So the concluding slide is, the path to move is you really do need to get from local to international services, but from local products to international export products. And different things are needed at different stages, starting with awareness and branding of Pakistan as an IT outsourced destination, all the way to intellectual property laws, payment gateways, and so on, and government strategy. So I'll end there.
Thank you, Ms. Helani, and thank you for sharing with us the Sri Lanka and Myanmar case studies. I believe in Pakistan also, our stakeholders, they are also playing their role, especially the our university system also, they have now good system evolved where students are working and government is providing them the basic platform through Microsoft and other companies. And we can see those incubation center being established in the university system, and they are also, our kids are also very smart and they are playing their role, but still it is a long way to go. Now we have the next speaker, Mr. Asim Shahryar, who is the Managing Director of Pakistan Software Export Board. And since July 2014, he is on this position. He is a technocrat with 21 years of experience in technology market and business planning. Before coming to Pakistan Software Export Board, he has been CEO of Comset Internet Services. Mr. Asim he holds the Bachelor of Science in Computer System Engineering from Stanford University, California, and MBA in Marketing from Duke University, North Carolina. He will be talking about Pakistan IT industry and Pakistan Software Export Board contribution toward the industry. Mr. Asim.
Chairman PTA, Dr. Ismail Shah, Dr. Mukhtar, respected panelists, our guests from Internet Society and ICT Industry of Pakistan, good morning and assalamu alaikum. First of all, congratulations to PTA, Internet Society, and telcos for organizing the first INET conference in Pakistan. Today I'll be talking about the IT industry of Pakistan and its growth over the last decade and PSAP's contributions to the IT industry. So Pakistan Software Export Board was established as a government body by the Ministry of IT around 20 years ago to promote and grow the IT exports of Pakistan. PSAP has different industry support programs including research studies, technology parks, bandwidth for IT companies, quality certifications such as ISO and CMMI, internships and trainings for IT graduates, workshops for startups and SMEs, and many other industry support programs based on our available budget. PSAP's goal is to take our IT exports from around $2.2 billion at present to at least $5 billion by 2020. So you can see from here that PSAP is really a bridge between multiple stakeholders in the IT industry of Pakistan, including foreign customers and investors, our local IT companies, software houses, call centers, Ministry of IT, PTA. We use PTA for whitelisting of IPs for call centers, TDAP, Higher Education Commission, PASHA. So PSAP connects multiple stakeholders. These are different industry support programs, research studies, technology parks, international marketing through participation in international IT exhibitions, quality certifications, bandwidth, internships and trainings for IT graduates, and then industry advocacy also on issues such as taxation and IPR. Let me now talk about some salient features of Pakistan's IT industry. At present, we have more than 2,000 IT companies, including software houses and call centers, and this number is growing every year. We have more than 200,000 professionals working in these IT companies. Our universities are producing more than 20,000 IT graduates every year. At present, we have around 14 IT parks, and we are planning more in the future. And then one of the major advantages that Pakistan offers to foreign customers is the cost advantage, up to 70% savings on OPEX when compared with Europe and North America. And our exports have grown by more than 20 times over the last decade. I'll show you the graph later on. Let me now talk about the size of the IT industry of Pakistan. The exports generated by our IT companies were around 2.1 billion last year, and then our freelancing revenue is another $100 million. So the total exports of our IT industry are around $2.2 billion at present. And if you add the domestic revenue of 300 million through local sales of software and services, our IT industry is generating a revenue of around $2.5 billion a year at present. Now, this graph shows the growth in the IT exports of Pakistan over the last 12 years. So you can see that from below $100 million back in 2003, our exports have exceeded $2 billion now. And last year, based on State Bank's figures, our exports grew by 41%. So at present, the IT sector of Pakistan is actually the fastest growing export sector of the country. Going forward, if our exports continue growing at a minimum rate of 20% every year, then our forecast is that our exports will cross 5 billion by 2020 and inshallah 10 billion by 2025. Now, these are some foreign investments made in some IT startups this year, including Daraz.pk, Zameen, Parkwheels, Rosie, CoVenture, around $80 million. And you can see that because Pakistan is a large consumer market, most of these investments are coming into e-commerce ventures in Pakistan. Then in freelancing, Pakistan is ranked 4th globally on ELANS in terms of the registered freelancers and the amount of revenue being generated from ELANS. And it has actually merged with Odesk this year to form Upwork. And Pakistan is also in Upwork's top 5 countries in terms of freelancing revenue. Now, this is a breakup of the IT companies registered with PSEB at present. So you can see that we have around 600 software houses and around 540 call centers. And Islamabad and Pindi are becoming a major IT hub of Pakistan. We have around 33% of the IT companies registered with PSEB, 32% from Karachi, 27% from Lahore, 5% from Peshawar, and the remaining 4% from Faisalabad, Multan, Sialkot, and other cities. Our IT companies have expertise in many different areas, including new product development, custom software development, financial software, healthcare software, telecom software, ERPs, mobile apps and games, graphics and animation, portal development, call centers, BPO services, medical transcription, systems integration. So a very diverse skill set. Now, these are some top IT companies based on the revenue reported by them to PSEB last year. And you can see TRG, Abacus, I2C, LMKR, RBSoft, NetSol, Bentley, and many other companies, their logos here. And these are some international clients of these IT companies, including ABN AMRO, BP, Petronas, Pepsi, BMW, Toyota, to name a few. Now let me talk about some activities of PSEB last year. We started with industry seminars in different cities, Lahore, Karachi, Islamabad, and Pindi, to get feedback from CEOs of IT companies about the issues they are facing and how PSEB can help them in resolving those issues. Then, for the first time in the history of Mobile World Congress, PSEB set up a Pakistan pavilion with 3 mobile apps companies. And one of the companies actually signed a deal of more than $100,000 during the event itself. So this is the value of participating in international IT exhibitions. For February 2016, PSEB has reserved space in Apps Planet, and we plan on taking another 3-4 mobile apps companies there and connecting them with foreign customers. It's not working. Sorry, this is not working. Okay. Okay. Now, this is big news this year. In September of this year, we had a 15-member delegation from Korea visiting Pakistan to kick off the feasibility study for a new state-of-the-art IT park on PSEB's land in Islamabad. So the study will be completed by March, April of next year, followed by signing of loan agreement. And then it will take another 3 years to design and construct the IT park. So hopefully by 2019, we will have a nice IT park in Islamabad for IT companies. Now, these are pictures of some IT parks which PSEB has created by converting existing buildings to office space for IT companies. So these are just makeshift IT parks and not true IT parks. And we'll continue finding new space for our IT companies till we have constructed the new IT parks. We're also giving bandwidth to IT companies in these parks. Then we also have an internship program where we placed 400 interns in different IT companies. Last year, 60% of these interns were hired by their employees. So these internships are actually creating jobs for IT graduates. And we also trained them in different courses. We have also created a documentary on the IT industry of Pakistan to be shown at international events and also events like this one. And it talks about the success stories of Pakistan's IT companies. We'll be showing that documentary at the end of this presentation. This is our calendar for this year for international events. We participated in GITEX last month. This month, we are at China High-Tech Fair, and then I talked about Mobile World Congress, and then CeBIT Europe and CeBIT Australia. On the left, you can see a picture of PCEP stall, and on the right side, you can see the 14 IT exhibitors who participated with PCEP at GITEX last month. Then PCEP also conducted a workshop for startups earlier this month, and it was basically to teach them about how to write a business plan, how to present a business plan, and how to find new international customers. And the feedback of most of the participants was that they found this workshop very useful, and they want PCEP to conduct this workshop in other cities also. I've talked about the feasibility study. We have also established a counseling center where SMEs, startups, and graduates can call us if they need any help with career counseling and how to establish an IT company. And we're also planning PCEP Expo with Expo Pakistan next year, where we'll be inviting CIOs and foreign investors and connecting them with local companies. This is contact information of our different offices in different cities. And now we'll show you a short documentary on the IT industry of Pakistan. Thank you for your time.
Rising from the beds of the Arabian Sea, Pakistan is one of the most strategically located countries in the world today. With more than 180 million inhabitants, Pakistan is seen as a promising emerging economy with immense potential. Pakistan is home to Arfa Karim, who in 2004, at the age of 9, became the youngest Microsoft certified professional in the world. Like young Arfa Karim, Pakistan is brimming with IT talent, a result of world-class universities, a vibrant IT industry, and strong government support. The strong IT ecosystem has attracted world's most reputed IT companies such as Oracle, Microsoft, and Cisco to Pakistan. Realizing the importance of a strong IT industry infrastructure and its subsequent positive impact on Pakistan's economy, the Ministry of Information Technology established Pakistan Software Export Board to ensure sustainable growth of Pakistan's IT industry.
Our policy is to put in place an accelerated digitization ecosystem to spur economic growth and to build a knowledge-based economy.
The government advocates business-friendly policies and incentives for foreign investors in IT sector, including zero taxes on IT exports at present, 100% repatriation of profits for foreign investors, up to 100% equity ownership, and 7-year tax holiday for venture capital funds.
Been a significant increase in terms of the companies that register themselves with PCEP, and this is, let me clarify, not a mandatory requirement. The reason I say this is that doing business in Pakistan is fairly easy. There are no onerous regulatory conditions, at least on the IT side.
Pakistan's IT exports have grown by more than 11 times over the last decade, growing at 30 to 40% every year.
PSEF's goal is to take Pakistan's IT exports to the $10 billion mark by 2025, and we are confident that our industry will achieve this target because of the immense IT talent available in Pakistan.
Pakistan is currently ranked 4th globally on Elance, the world's leading freelancing portal. Pakistani IT companies have expertise in different IT services, including high-end, enterprise-grade software development, systems integration, mobile apps, gaming, animation, consulting, and BPO services such as telemarketing, technical support, medical transcription, and billing. A large number of our IT professionals have worked overseas, particularly in North America and Europe.
Pakistan IT competence pool is probably the untapped secrecy of the world. I mean, that's a jewel available there, and this is opportunity. And I hope that will become more widely known in the world in the coming years.
NetSol Technologies Incorporated was the first Pakistani IT company to be listed on NASDAQ in 1999, which provides software solutions to the global leasing and financing industry.
It is attracting old customers, staying and referring to the new ones to come and use our services. That is when you feel that your industry has matured up and offering quality standard services around the world.
Pakistani Asher Aziz is the founder of FireEye, a NASDAQ-listed IT company which provides cybersecurity solutions for detecting and preventing cyber attacks, with a current market capitalization of more than $6 billion. Pakistan has produced some great gaming studios. For instance, Cricket Power TM, a game developed by Mindstorm Studios, was selected as the official game of ICC Cricket World Cup 2011.
We are extremely competitive in the global software IT space. We have absolutely no roadblocks that prevent us from operating in the digital space. And keep in mind that you'll always be getting your work done at 3x. That's unbeatable. So Pakistan by default becomes the first fishing ground for any sort of outsourcing work that you'd like to do.
Talking about investments of Rocket Internet, a German venture capital firm, in different e-commerce ventures in Pakistan such as Karmudi.pk, Lamudi.pk, and Daraz.pk. Coeen Thizan, co-CEO of Asia Internet Holdings, said, "It seems that the country naturally has the entrepreneurial gene. A major chunk of the company's investments in Asia will be in Pakistan."
The government is providing full support to investors in the IT sector, and I would like to invite both foreign and local investors to explore Pakistan's growing IT industry and join us in this rising trade.
With more than 14 software technology parks, 4 submarine cables with satellite backup, 5 3G, 4G operators, English-speaking IT professionals and high-quality resources available at up to 70% savings on annual operating costs when compared with North America and Europe, Pakistan is fast becoming a preferred destination for IT outsourcing and investment. Today's Pakistan is well placed as a significant player in the global IT industry. It is just the beginning of an age of budding, talented entrepreneurs and professionals riding the tides of impossibilities to make them possible and setting new standards in the global IT industry, like the young Arfa Kareem.
Our next speaker is Mr. Parvaiz Iftikhar, who is an international consultant, ICT consultant, of course. With more than 35-year experience, Parvaiz Iftikhar is presently working in various countries of Asia and Africa, mainly through ITU, World Bank, USA, ADB, CTO, etc. Till end 2011, Parvaiz was working as the founding CEO of the Universal Service Fund in Pakistan, which he joined in mid-2007 as USF's first employee. Before USF, he was working as the country head of the Telecom where he managed to increase the revenue almost tenfold in 7 years in Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Parvaiz Iftikhar.
Assalamu alaikum and very good morning, especially to the participants who come from abroad. We've heard some very good things yesterday and today. Asim showed what PSCP has done. It's all very commendable. Normally I'm also a very optimistic person. In fact, some of my friends call me a chronic optimist. But sometimes it's good to be not so optimistic also. Well, there was a good time not too long ago when we were ahead of everybody else in the region. And these figures are before this SIM verification drive, which shows a downward trend of figures of Pakistan. But while everybody else is deriving full advantage of ICTs in every phase, every sphere of economic, social activity in a sector, bringing unprecedented efficiencies to what touches the citizens' lives. We in Pakistan have allocated somehow the lowest of all priorities to ICT. Past seems to be a different country. Our network readiness index has been plummeting, and the foreign direct investment figures are not too flattering anymore. FDI is one of the main contributors, I think you all know, to the growth of ICT. And we're talking of growth of ICT today. And to a new investor, whether it is foreigner or a local investor, the first thing that one looks at is the government sector policy. In a fast-moving high-tech sector like ICT, where policies get outdated very fast anyway, in Pakistan, it has been over a decade that the last IT and telecom policies were enacted. Whatever efforts are made by stakeholders in the absence of policy, stakeholders, whether the government or private sector, are haphazard. They are not part of any holistic solution. Absence of a policy leaves the sector to chance development. The stakeholders are unable to move in one direction in sync with each other. The other issue that a new investor looks at is the status of the present investors and their investments in the country. Well, on that part also, we do not enjoy the best reputation, as Pakistan's ICT sector is one of the highest taxed in the world. That may have been fine, perhaps, it may have been fine, if the taxes were used along with metro buses for metro fibers also. Actually, even ahead of the buses, because in the metro fiber case, you just need to easily incentivize the telecom operators and they will lay the cables. The government doesn't have to invest too much. And there's a great need of this too. Pakistan has about only 5% of the cell sites connected with fiber, as against 90% in Thailand, for example. Many countries are like Zambia in Africa, where I've done some work recently. Zambia, Rwanda, South Africa, Kenya, Uganda, they have rolled out, they have announced plans of metro fibers during the year 2014 alone. The reason why I think fiber is so important is that metro fibers open the doors to affordable broadband access for small and medium enterprises. Because the marginal cost of rolling out municipal Wi-Fi services on top of metro fiber network is very low. Even mohalla entrepreneurs could start offering last mile broadband access, tapping into the nearby passing metro fiber and employing unlicensed Wi-Fi band for the last mile. With cheap broadband access available, if it is, other young entrepreneurs can create e-businesses. Even in the medium term, thousands of jobs can be created, particularly for the youth. In the meanwhile, while we are not treating ICT as something which drives the economy, some other countries, realizing that highways brought strong economic growth to countries like USA and Germany during the middle of the last century, some countries are feverishly building optic fiber-based long-haul information highways. The Indonesia's extension of Palapa Ring, Australia's national broadband network, India's BharatNet, Ghana's B-Train, Nigeria's B-Train, Ghana's Eastern Corridor fiber optic. All these projects are only some of the examples. There are many more, of course. In Pakistan, US have had a similar program of connecting tehsils, which are sub-districts, with the fiber. The program ran reasonably well. As a result, for example, in Balochistan, thousands of kilometers of fiber was laid all across in the vast province, and this is the most unserved or underserved province of the country. The next natural step was, after sub-districts, to go to what we call union councils. There are 6,000 plus union councils in the country. Unfortunately, this has eluded the attention of the IT ministry so far. If we want to provide these services to the people at their doorsteps, and majority of our people live in villages, in rural areas, then taking fibers to villages is the only way. Otherwise, that segment of population, which is in majority, unfortunately, will remain out of the system. In fact, with the passage of time, there will be more and more out because ICT is taking over. It is also important to note, by the way, that wherever the optic fibers are deployed, metro or long haul, doesn't matter, they must provide equal access to all. Now, this is very important because fibers belonging to an incumbent who has his own last mile business to protect cannot provide equal access to all. It's just not possible. So, such equal access fibers may belong to infrastructure providers whose sole interest lies in filling up the capacity. There's a fantastic example in Ghana, in Uganda, where Google has invested in and built 800 kilometers of metro fiber in the city of Kampala. And that's very fantastic. I find it very fantastic because Google is not one of the players there. It's a neutral party. And for them to come and invest and run the fiber network. It is, their sole aim is to fill the pipe with the bits and bytes. They want more and more bits and bytes to flow. Google, what else would they like? So they have no interest in the last mile business, so they have no competition with the last mile business here. They have actually announced a new project now in Accra, Ghana, which is even bigger. So I think taxing the sector heavily and not investing even the USF money in fibers or for ICT in general for that matter has been our biggest failure on the supply side. Let's look at the demand side now. We're talking of growth of ICTs. Demand side is extremely important because we know very well that no matter what efforts we put in supplying broadband, the growth of ICTs will remain stunted unless the demand side is also addressed. To address the demand side in every country where ICTs have flourished and contributed to the economic growth, the government itself invariably has been the biggest user of ICTs. Government itself. Unfortunately, it's not the case in our country. In our case, the IT ministry has been struggling for the last 2 years to make the other fellow ministries switch on to e-office. It's not the fault of IT ministry. Mudassar has gone out, but it's not IT ministry's fault. Just in time, exactly. It's only that the other ministries just don't listen to them. And demand side also includes basic digital literacy and local content. For maximum number of people to benefit, the local content has to be not only local, but in local languages and local dialects, which is quite a tall order. You must, in a country like ours where there are, 32 dialects. Imagine if messages for agriculturists it jumps to thank you, sorry. If messages to agriculturists could be made in the form of video clips, dubbed in local dialects instead of simple text messages like this, and sent over broadband directly to their smartphones, imagine what impact that will have. Such things cannot be done by telcos, nor by the ICT ministries. But ICT ministries have to act as enablers and helpers for agricultural ministries, for example, in this case. And for that, the ICT ministry and the agricultural ministry in the government have to interact very closely with each other. In view of the fact that agriculture and some others like education and healthcare are now provincial subjects, makes it even more challenging. ICT is now the biggest component of economy, probably bigger than anything else. Be it agriculture, education, commerce, healthcare, mining, whatever, ICT impacts everything. ICT impacts everything. And unless there is a very close collaboration between IT and other ministries, all those ICT-based applications cannot be implemented, which could catapult the efficiencies of those sectors. It may seem that I'm blaming IT ministry. I have already said that. That's not the case. Other countries have faced similar situations. And they have sorted this out, and there's a common trend there. In South Korea, for example, there's a presidential council looking after the ICT policy matters. And under that council is a presidential committee which looks at the implementation issues. In Japan, ICT is led by the Cabinet Secretariat. I was in Indonesia working on the National Broadband Plan last year. And the ministry which was leading was Ministry of Planning, Bapenas they call it. Similarly, in other countries, there are supra bodies which report directly to the head of the state or head of the government, whatever the case may be. And that is the body which makes all the decisions and makes sure that every ministry listens and does what is required to be done. In Indonesia, by the way, the ICT ministry was only one of the 4 pillars of the broadband plan. The other 3 being finance, economy, and private sector. So ICT ministry was not the leading ministry. Perhaps we need to carry out similar reforms, where a high-level cross-sectorial body takes over the vital subject of planning and implementing the supply and demand sides of ICT initiatives. Such a body should have the power and the teeth to direct the ministries and should be able to influence their policies and decision-making, particularly where ICT is concerned. The cross-sectorial impact of ICT is far too big now. We have to realize that. And the present dispensation is unable to cope with the massive demands and responsibilities that are placed on it. Unless there are some significant policy reforms, as I have just mentioned, the dream of substantial ICT growth will remain distant. Thank you.
Thank you, Parvaiz Sahab. I hope it was optimistic approach, right? So our last speaker, Mr. Mudassar Hussain, Bachelor of Engineering from UET Peshawar, Master of Electrical Engineering from North Carolina A&T State University, is the member Telecom at Ministry of Information Technology and Telecom Pakistan. So over to you, sir. Thank you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you, Ji, for this introduction. I would like to welcome everybody and say a very good morning. My friends here in PTA, the Chairman Sahab, mentors already sitting with them, ISOC, ITU, friends from LIRNEasia, Helani, welcome back, and industry colleagues, everybody. Thanks for giving me an opportunity at the end. I did have a made-up presentation, but I believe that during the 3 sessions yesterday and the 3 speakers before me today, a lot has been said on what's possible, how has it come along, what needs to be done. So to again repeat the same things, I didn't want to do it. So I've just taken this chance to just go at the end of this session, being the Telecom Policy Advisor to Ministry of IT, to sum up the situation, some of the things that Helani has raised, some of the opportunities that Asim has talked about, some of the very good suggestions that our friend Parvaiz has floated. We need to aggregate all of these things up. So what does this depiction tell us? Helani said that we need to follow a certain trajectory and roadmap. internet. Yes, this is all about internet. But we need to make internet useful for people, to increase the consumption, to increase the absorption, to make it into a digital society, as we say, which is a user, consumer, producer of knowledge and information, so that more business avenues are also available because of this usage. Yes, there is a trajectory. And there's basic ingredients that you need within an economy to drive the growth to a level, indigenous growth to a level that would be, desirable, or that would be suitable for Pakistan, country like Pakistan. Asim said, he's told you about the growth of the IT industry of the past 10 years. What that tells us is that we have the capability, we have the innovation capacity, and we have the human resource that is globally relevant, because our export figures tell you. And that's very encouraging, that you do the IT industry, the IT part, the app part, the usefulness part. We have the resources to do it. These are the ingredients that are available. And then the third presentation about gaps and loopholes and policy, to put all of these resources together to give a viable output. Yes. And then we need to also put in a general perspective of how the industry has evolved, how the telecom, how the connectivity scenario has come around. It's also relevant because the previous decade was a decade of supply, infrastructure, taking access to everybody. The basic application, a pent-up demand for voice was already there. So all of the people needed to be connected. And we can take some pride in saying that over the last decade, the objective of coverage, taking supply to nearly everybody all across Pakistan, because of the stable policy and because of the persistent focus of the government, it was largely achieved. Now the industry itself has come to a point globally where we see a change. There is a change in the way communications, information industries have now come to a point where the whole scenario of the market has changed. The business models, the need to treat all of these separate ingredients separately, to combine them, and for the policy, regulation, everything to follow to give it a boost. The whole scenario has now changed. So we are standing at a very interesting time, where there's a certain shift in the industry, where there's a separation of network from the services, where there's things like OTT, where everything is going over the top. And one more thing that is very relevant, there has to be growth, but there's always a word sustainable with growth. So sustainable also applies to the industry side. What we have come to realize that yes, we talk about growth, data, fine. Already, even with the lack of what we say is a useful content and demand, you see the numbers of data usage, the petabytes and the exabytes and everything. It's going through the roof. But there's a fundamental fact to this also, that this growth is the growth in traffic, which ideally, historically in telecoms, traffic was linked proportionally to revenues. Now that's no more the case. Traffic has grown, data usage has grown, But the basic revenues, the vitality of the industry, their ability to supply infrastructure, because governments are no more in the business of supplying infrastructure for the large part of the industry. So the industry's capacity to keep funding this capacity hunger, it needs a serious reconsideration now as well. So these are all the elements that are realities of today's situation. Yes, the fundamental approach to policy and regulation, which historically is slower than the industry growth, the innovation and the ability of the private sector and research and development to fuel technologies, policy regulation definitely has been slow, but now it's even more complex. In all of this scenario, with the OTTs, with network separate, this role has also become complex. On the same time, the historical business model of the telco industry, that has changed. The core services, which used to be voice and everything was in the network and everything was in the control, the proportion of what we used to call the non-core business activities, that now needs to be driven. That's why we hear about these apps, databases, big data, analytics, value-added services, e-governance. These all need to come together now to provide a permutation of new business opportunities. Now the government cannot, obviously it has been a proven fact over the last decade that had government been able to do it alone, it would have continued in a regulated monopoly fashion previously. So last decade told us that government cannot do it alone. They need the private sector to come together and take the responsibility. Yes, telecom operators came in, connectivity providers, everybody else. They did come in, and we have a success story. Now 2014-15 tells us that all of these players, the very good software industries, wonderful friends over there, these youngsters, the innovations, the output of the incubators, they all need to get together to enable these new business opportunities, because when the old is no more possible, you need to find something new. So the industry, the telecom industry, the IT industry, none of these players can act alone now. So there is a complex situation, but there's a real opportunity in finding new ways of doing things. And I believe that a fundamental shift in the mindset and in the thought of doing the business in the IT industry locally is changing, and it will need to further change. Particularly in case of Pakistan, why this is required is that you've looked at the figures, that your software export figure is more than your local software consumption. Asim pointed out a couple of 100 million sales in Pakistan and 2 billion abroad. What that tells us that there's a green field for absorption of IT and real IT-enabled services within the country itself. So there's a huge potential for all of these players, our telco industry, our software industry, who are well known to each other anyways, to come together in meaningful partnership to drive this useful use of internet and absorption of technology within the country itself. That tells us, the demographics tell us that there is population, there is potential available, there's everything, all the pieces of the recipe, ingredients are there. So somebody needs to cook this broth. Coming together, and I'm not so pessimistic today as Iftikhar Parvaiz have sounded, that these things are there. It's just that we need to put together these ingredients to deliver a new business thinking about the industry. Our people in Pakistan, the rural population, even the urban population, I agree with Parvaiz Saab that, metro fiber networks. Even countries like Australia, you would not see a need for government to intervene with a plan for a metro fiber or a long-haul fiber broadband. But it's just a priority that if you want to do it, if you want to create real depth and value in the infrastructure, so governments need to come in, do the metro. Unfortunately, the USF route was previously just limited to unserved and underserved areas. In Pakistan, we have examples, and we were the trendsetters in some of the examples where there was innovative use of USF, and Parvaiz was a part of that. But I would really like to wrap up my talk now. I didn't deliver the usual run-of-the-mill, what our policy will do or what it will not do. We believe that in Pakistan, there's the demographic, there's the market, internal market, there's the capacities, there's everything available. And by the grace of God, the status of our connectivity and our enablement on the information side is not so bad. So there's no need to really be depressed about it. It's just that we all of us sitting here in this room need to get together and consider each other a partner. The industry needs to consider the government as a partner because, all of these services, the e-governance, which will be the basis of next generation growth, needs industry and government collaboration now. We need to come through with the promise of the PPPs that we so often talk about. And then there's an automatic opportunity for the IT industry, for the app developers, for the e-lancers, for everybody to come together. So on the telecom policy side, the things that we could address, we are very confident that in the upcoming policies, in the recent modifications, we will treat that. There are certain elements, we've been with our friends, there are industry issues, we realize that. The policy needs to address those issues to the maximum. I would also agree with Parvaiz Saab's proposal that there needs to be a higher level ownership to the basic digital economy concept that is floating everywhere in the world. We see digital India, digital Bangladesh, digital this, that. But one thing is common, that it needs to be a priority, it needs to have ownership. And we in our right and Ministry of IT have always advocated that, and we'll keep working with the industry to get it the maximum ownership that the subject needs. And I'll end by saying again that, hey, we here at the Ministry of IT to bring about this dream that is being discussed in this room, we are willing to welcome anybody and everybody who comes to us with suggestions, and we really promise that all the valuable input will always be really thoroughly analyzed, and it will be incorporated into our policy. That's how we've operated historically, and that's how, inshallah, we'll continue going forward. It's just that this complexity needs to be simplified for all these sectors, the policy, the regulation, the industry business practice, and the financing and funding of further growth in these areas. So anybody and everybody is welcome. Most of the people here at least know my office, so please do not hesitate to contact me if you have anything of value to add, and whatever will go out from this forum will definitely be considered very, very seriously. I would like to thank you all for your patience with a little extended talk that I delivered. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mudassar. And I thank you for wrapping up it, basically, because we are already 15 minutes late. So what I will suggest that no question answer session here, because we have only 15 minutes left before next session will start. So all question answers should be at the tea session when you'll be in the break. But let me quickly, whatever I perceive from this talk was that there's a lot of potential in Pakistan as far as the ICT industry is concerned, because our topic of the theme of this session was growth of ICT industry in Pakistan. And as a consumer market, obviously this is growing very fast. I think the second part need to be done because we are investing huge amount of resources on importing all those technology gadgets, all those equipments. I think government, again, is coming to government. By the way, from where we can get the government? Can we buy it? But we have to do something in Pakistan to, even if not manufacturing right away, maybe part of this, having some assembly plant in Pakistan, so that we should also move in this part of technology industry. Same time, I think this is time that our regulators, our big giant technology service provider, they should bring some R&D in Pakistan. We have the potential in our youth. Pakistan, we have, mashallah, huge growth in the higher education sector. Our youth has potential, so I will suggest that they should bring some R&D in Pakistan so that the real work should start in this industry also. Similarly, I think this is a time that we have to set up and some technology parks, some incubation center, where we have academia, we have industry, we have all those big giants sitting together and working with each other. And let's work together, inshallah. The future is bright. On one point, I believe Parvaiz was indicating about the IT telecom policies, and I think Dr. Shah was telling me in his eyes that the policy is already ready for a new policy of IT and telecom in Pakistan, and they will be launching very soon. Am I right, sir? So the ministry has to do it. Again, the government, yeah? Mudassar, you are the person responsible.
Telecom, yes. I don't have a microphone, but I believe I'm loud enough.
You're loud enough. Yeah, it's on the way. On the way.
Out of our area of work, and it is on the final stage of the approval. So
Hopefully in next couple of weeks, maybe. So I'm just pushing. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Let's thank our honorable panelists, Ms. Helani, Mr. Asim Shahryar, Mr. Parvaiz Iftikhar, and Mr. Mudassar for their valuable thoughts and speech. Thank you very much. Big hand for our panelists. And thank you, Dr. Shah and your team for giving us this opportunity. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We can have now break for a short break.